Service design is about service design process where you try to build up in a step-by-step kind of approach a very usable service for the clients or for the end users. Service design has become important since service economy is booming. In Europe, about 70 to 85% from the gross national product already comes from services. The product market is satisfied, and services are actually a very good competition tool also to be included with the products. Furthermore, technology is enabling services so that new ICT-based solutions are becoming very typical. From the human point of view, humans have individual needs, and in experience economy, you want to make emotionally positive experiences out of the services. Many companies who used to produce only products are now relying more and more on services. One of the successful international companies in Finland, KONE, has been producing elevators and escalators, but nowadays their mission is that they are dedicated to people flow, actually offering a service how you flow people from place to place. Of course, such services as repairing and caretaking of the elevators and escalators is a big part of their business now. In recommendation-based markets where peer-to-peer recommendations or peer-to-peer ruining of the reputation of a company has become very important, companies must pay attention to their service quality in order to avoid negative discussions in the internet. In the recommendation-based markets, companies rely more and more also on actually users as content providers for services or even co-designers for services. In this multi-phased field of services where you build up product and service hybrids, you work with recommendation-based markets and ICT solutions, and also you co-design with the users. Service design has become a holistic, multidisciplinary and integrated field where management, marketing, research and design works together for the purpose to innovate new or improve existing services and to make them more usable, useful, desirable for clients as well as for more efficient and profitable for the organizing parties. Service design focuses on service offerings, and those consider touch points across channels, interactions, and connections between them in a service design process. Services integrate complementary products in a service ecosystems also. And this happens by applying tools originally from product design to create human-centered or human-driven services. User-driven approach is used since earlier business research on services has discovered that there very typically exist gaps between what the expected service from the user point was and what was actually offered for the user or the customer by the company. Because there are several different possibilities of having gaps between the understanding and the provision of the service. A typical gap that can be crossed with user-driven approach is the difference between what the customers really expected and what the management perceived as their expectations. Another kind of gap exists in the difference between management perceptions of the customer expectation and the translation of those perceptions in the service designs. Then there is also a possibility for a gap in the difference between service quality specifications and the actual service delivered to the customers, and also a gap in the difference between the service delivered to customers and the promise of the firm to customers about the service quality in their marketing material. So one of the means that is used in service design is to apply user-driven approaches in order to cross the customer gap with services. So services are described, even though they are abstract and non-tangible and complex processes, they are described in a tangible way in order for all the service producers to understand in a similar way the vision, strategy and promise to the customer, as well as the real-life execution of the service. So service design tries to explain and to describe in a very specific way how the whole customer journey for the service is made, what are the different episodes and service moments and touch points during that service journey, so that everyone would understand it and that the whole process would be made from the customer point of view. When we start designing services from the user point of view, we should, for example, consider what kind of different use types we might have. Here is an example of different activity types that users might have. Someone might be an actor type, wanting to do actively practical things. One might be an achiever type, wanting to achieve very efficiently the goals that they have. One might be a dreamer type, wanting to see and look and wonder about the future possibilities. And someone might be a thinker type, more inclined to do philosophic thinking kind of activities. The user-driven approach is also visible in the customized solutions that are typical today. We can automatically send messages where we have the client's real name mentioned. You can have customized solutions where you can, for example, choose your own kind of products in the hotel room where you go to, or you can choose your own interior designer or type of a doctor that pleases you. Also, the kind of services where you can receive recommendations according to your searches or your earlier customer choices are typical. When we start making the services from the user point of view, we try to find the design drivers, the motivation of the user, to discover how the user needs should be applied to the service process. What are the expectations of the user? This we then combined with the image aspirations of the company, what kind of brand the service company has. And all of this should become tangible in a service concept, which also has a suitable service style, for example, dignified or casual. The service style is visible in the touch points in the service, and it can be also experienced with the behavior of the staff and how the functional technical interaction is planned to happen for the customer. As the basic services that one company, for example, is offering don't often exist alone, it's very important to think about what is the core service, determining the task and intentions of the organization of the company that the design is planned for. And then also to think about what kind of enabling or facilitating services are required in order for the customer to, for example, arrive into the place where core service is offered. And then, in addition to the core service, we can also have enhancing or supportive services that somehow increase the value of the core service. All of these can be produced together as a service package. So with services, it's important to remember that the core service often doesn't exist alone or cannot be enjoyed by the customer alone. We must think about the whole service offering in augmented kind of environment with the enabling and enhancing services and how the customer can participate in these. And services are created in an iterative process where it's very important to start up with the understanding of the whole environment where the service is produced and how the customers can be enjoying it. So mapping the understanding is the first step. Then finding out about the design brief, what is the task in the service design, and what are the drivers of the users is the second step. Then profiling and making scenarios of the possible solutions comes along, and then we can set the requirements for the service and continue with the concept design of the service, evaluation, prototyping, hopefully testing the prototypes and the concept, and then realizing the service. And with this kind of process, we then can try to cross the customer gap in services so that the expected service is really the one that's also perceived by the customer. And by executing the service design process from the context and stakeholder analysis into user information and then user-driven service design, we hopefully can at the end achieve useful, desirable, effective, efficient and different kinds of new or improved services. Since service economy has become so important, also there is a boom of service design consultancies. You can find a few of them from the bottom of this PowerPoint slide, and you can get to know what the service design consultancies are doing